We're studying Tractate Makkot. We're on page 5a, and we have an interesting section today to go through. It starts Ve'amar Rabba. The Mishnah that we learned last time is dealing with some of the details of how do we actually consider what makes conspiring witnesses meaning what do they the essence of their lie, how does it work, what exactly do they need to say in order to be considered conspiring witnesses versus just a regular false witnesses that telling a lie. So in connection with that, we brought a series of teachings from an Amora by the name of Rava, very famous. And each time the Gemara was asking, why is he telling it? Well, like, what is the chidush? What is the newness about what he's saying? We know what he said, and we learn, he said it actually something new. So this is the last of that series. We didn't finish it last time. So let's just dive into it, and let's talk about a bunch of directives, or about a bunch of psakim of halachot that Rava said that are discussing different details in what the conspiring witnesses said versus what really happened. So Ve'amar Rava. So Ba'u Shnayim ve'amru b'chad b'Shabbat harak plonit hanefesh. Two witnesses are coming to court and are saying that on Sunday, so and so, a certain person, killed another person on Sunday. And then Uba'u Shnayim ve'amru imanu haytem b'echad b'Shabbat. Then there are two other witnesses are coming and saying, hey, you were with us on Sunday. You couldn't have seen that in a certain spot that happened. You couldn't have seen that because you were with us somewhere else on Sunday. However, we know, say the second set of witnesses, that this murder actually occurred by this person that you were also testifying against, but it happened on Monday. So, what do we have here? We have here someone who actually killed someone else. We have two sets of witnesses that are testifying that the murder actually happened, and even happened in the same spot. They both agree on a spot. The difference is that one set of witnesses are saying that it happened on Sunday, and the second set of witnesses not just saying it happened on Monday, they're saying about the first set of witnesses, you were with us on Sunday somewhere else. So the second set of witnesses are rendering the first set of witnesses conspiring witnesses, right? Simple. Velo od. So what happened to the so what actually happened here? We actually on Sunday, the murderer was not, according to the second set of witnesses, on Sunday the murderer was not eligible for death penalty, right? Because on Sunday he didn't kill yet. He only killed on Monday. So on Sunday he didn't kill yet, and therefore the first set of witnesses are trying to blame an innocent person. That is the logic here. Because they didn't, the actual murder didn't happen until Monday, therefore, on Sunday, the person is actually an innocent man. Yes, on Monday he killed, but on Sunday he didn't. And therefore, they are trying to frame an innocent man. Very interesting. Velod, so now the Braita, Rava is adding even more even more serious, even more wrinkle here, more interesting wrinkle. ולא עוד, אלא אפילו אמרו בערב שבת הרגה פלונית הנפש, נהרגים. דבעידנא דקמאסתי גברא לה בהרגתה להו. Now, what happened if the first set of witnesses came and said that he killed on Sunday, and the second set of witnesses said, no, you couldn't have seen that murder on Sunday because you were with us somewhere else. The truth is that the actual murder occurred on Friday. The second set is saying that the actual murder occurred on Friday. So what do we have here? On Sunday, the murderer was already a murderer, right? Because the actual event happened on Friday. Nonetheless, at the time that the first witnesses testified, the person was not a convicted murderer. Lav de gavra lav barakta lahu. So even though he actually killed, and he actually killed before the first witnesses are saying that he killed, so he was, by the time they're testifying that he killed on Sunday he already murdered that person, on that spot. But because the actual this is a lot of what we're going to discuss today. So because the person is not yet liable for execution by the court, therefore he is considered innocent, and therefore those first set of witnesses are conspiring to kill someone who is not eligible for execution, because the court case didn't end. So this is what the statement of Rava is, and we have to understand it, because what does it mean that the person is not liable, is not ready to be executed? Well, what does that mean? So Rashi explains that something very controversial, and that's why I thought we should discuss it. What Rashi is saying is as follows: that the person, before the court is before the court is convicting someone, if a murderer shows up to court and says, I killed so and so on this day, Rashi is saying that because he is coming to confess, his punishment is changed from death to something else. Meaning, if someone confesses, if someone kills and goes to court and says, "I killed," he's not being killed an eye for an eye, right? We usually say if someone murdered and he was convicted in court, you killed, you're going to get killed too, right? That's if it was bemazed, if it was on purpose. But what Rashi is saying is that if the person comes and confesses, he is not getting killed. So and therefore, according to Rashi, what happened here? What happened here is that because the person was able to save himself, the person, the murderer, was able to save himself by coming to court and confessing, and those two sets of witnesses robbed him of that ability because they came and said this guy is killed on Sunday. So he's no longer able to come to say to court, yes, I killed, because now it's a court case. You can't come after the court case started, you can't come say and confess. You have to do it before. So therefore they robbed him of that opportunity, and that's the reason they are considered conspiring witnesses and they are killed. So that's what Rashi explains how this piece of Gemara works. But there are a lot of questions about this, and chief among them is the fact that, according to Rashi, any person who is committing a sin or committing a transgression that comes with a death penalty can free himself from the death penalty. Show up to court and says, "Hi, Mr. Judge, or Mr. and Mr. the three judges, I committed that transgression, and here I'm confessing," and they can save themselves from death. That's according to us. That's what comes out. And the problem is that we don't know. We don't see anywhere in the Gemara this kind of a ruling that this is the way it is. It's not the Gemara is not clearly defining such a rule, and therefore, because of that, a lot of the commentaries are rejecting that explanation of Rashi here, and they're explaining this piece of Gemara a little differently. What does it mean that the person is not eligible for execution? They say as follows, and we're going to learn we're going to learn it according to the explanation of a very important commentary. His name is Rabbi Akiva Iger. Rabbi Akiva Iger is a German Jew that was born in 1761 and lived till in the middle of the 1800s, and he was one of the sharpest commentaries of the Gemara of his time, and until our days, he is very, very respected, and he really was able to explain a lot of hard pieces. So what Rabbi Akiva Iger says, he says as follows, okay? And sort of an introduction. So let's take a step back. It says, when someone has an obligation, a monetary obligation, meaning I borrowed $100 from you, I didn't pay it, I have an obligation to pay it, okay? Or I broke your car and I have an obligation to fix your car, to pay you money. That obligation of the monetary obligation that I have because I borrowed and I didn't pay back, that obligation stands and exists in and of itself. We don't need witnesses for it. I have the obligation. If I was, if I'm a pious person, if I'm a trustworthy person, I will pay you. That obligation exists even if there are no witnesses. Why do you need witnesses? You need witnesses in case the person who committed the crime is not a trustworthy person. So you needed to go to the judge and to Beis Din and to prove that you're right. But the obligation exists anyway. Now, let me pose a question to you guys. What happened if someone killed someone, or someone did Chilul Shabbat, the desecration of the Shabbos? The punishment for both of those things is death, right? Is this obligation to get the punishment of death, does that obligation stand, as soon as the crime occurred? And therefore, the person who committed desecrated the Shabbos can go now and jump off a bridge because they're obligated to die because they desecrated the Shabbos, and they therefore they didn't want to go through the pain of doing it in Beis Din, so they just jump off a bridge or whatever of a building and they kill themselves. Is that something what do you think about that? Is that right, wrong?
Doesn't he have to have two witnesses who warned him and they have to testify for it?
So let's say he has two witnesses. You're very good. Let's say he does have two witnesses that warned him, didn't testify yet. Is he right?
Did he hear that? Did he pay attention?
Yeah. All of the other conditions were met. He heard that, he did, he said, yes, I'm doing it. I know it's Shabbos, I know I'm not allowed to desecrate Shabbos, and I'm doing it anyway.
But I guess he ain't got no excuse. Jump from the building.
It's up to the Beis Din to sentence him if that's what they're going to do.
Right, a person
You
that...
can't take your own life.
Right, you can't take your own
okay.
life. You can that obligation to die, the obligation to receive that punishment does not exist unless Beis Din says that it exists. And Beis Din only say it after the witnesses testify. This is, Greg, what you said to begin with. If the witnesses testified and all the other conditions were met, and Beis Din rendered a verdict, yes, that a person needs to die, then he is going to, he's a dead man. But before that, he's not a dead man. And if someone killed themselves, they desecrated the Shabbos, and they did it b'chavana, on purpose and all of that, and then they killed themselves, when they come up there, they have two problems. they have two sins. But sin number one is the Shabbos, sin number two is that they killed themselves. That is what Rabbi Akiva Iger is saying. So, going back to our situation here, before Beis Din gave the verdict, the person is not a dead man. And therefore, if the first set of witnesses are coming in and saying that this person killed someone, but they're saying the wrong date, meaning they're conspiring to make this person a guilty person, a guilty a murderer. But Beis Din did not render the verdict yet, and then a second set coming and saying, no, you guys were with us somewhere else on that day, on Sunday, and he actually died either on Monday or on Friday, then Beis Din is able to render the halacha that the person is guilty, but before that not, and therefore the two other witnesses, the first set of witnesses are dying, are being considered conspiring witnesses, and they're going to die. Now, just as an aside, what happened to the victim? Not to the victim. What happened to the accuser, to the murderer? After we said that the first set of witnesses are conspiring witnesses, and they are going to die because they accused him of killing on Sunday, and he did not kill on Sunday. He either killed on Monday or on Friday. Right? What happened to the actual murderer? What do you think his punishment is? Anyone?
I would think it would be death when the proper witnesses.
Exactly. The second set of witnesses are accepted by the court, then they're proper witnesses, and then the person is... So he's dying, and the first conspiring witnesses are dying, which is usually not what happens. Usually when there is conspiring witnesses, they just accuse someone who is not guilty of something, so they get the punishment instead of him. But here, the guy is a guilty murderer, so he's dying, but they're dying too. So that is what Rava is saying according to Rabbi Akiva Iger. So now the Gemara is asking, Ma'ika mashmalan? What is the new idea here? Tanina, we know already this halacha from somewhere else. So what is Rava telling us here that we didn't know before? Where is the somewhere else? Somewhere else is as follows, Tanina, לפיכך נמצאת אחד מהם זוממת, הוא והן נהרגים והשנייה פטורים. If there is a murder, okay, and the murder happened in a certain spot, and you have two sets of witnesses, and the two sets, each one stood in another place. So let's just take the corner. The murder happened on the corner of Starbucks. Okay, one set of witnesses stood near Walgreens and saw it, and another set of witnesses stood near the post office and saw it. The witnesses that stood next to the post office cannot see possibly the witnesses of Walgreens because, there are houses in between. But they both can see the center or the corner of Starbucks, right? So therefore, what happened? And if one of the set of let's say the witnesses that stood next to Walgreens are found to be conspiring witnesses, so because they were somewhere else and there is another set of witnesses that are coming and saying that those guys were with us at the same time somewhere else, so they're getting killed because they try to frame someone, but the murderer is actually getting killed on account of the set of witnesses that stood near the post office. So we have a clear Braita that discusses a similar situation. The difference between this Braita and ours is that in our case, the second witnesses not only saw the murder, they also can testify that the conspiring witnesses were with them somewhere else. That's the only difference between the two Braitot, right? But what the essence here seems to be the same. So what is Rava coming to tell us? What's the new thing here? So the Gemara is answering, indeed you're right. There is nothing new in what Rava said that we just mentioned, because we know it from somewhere else. However, when Rava taught his halacha, he had a longer shir, and he said another piece, and that piece is new. And if you learn the whole shir, the beginning of the shir is not new, but the end of the shir is new. And that is why, because he gave the whole thing as one unit, we repeat it as one unit, but the new stuff is at the end. And what is the end? So it says, the Seifa, the end is Mashe'en ken bigmar din itztarichile. So we need the chidush, the new thing that Rava told us is at the end. And what did he say at the end? He said that that when there is a situation, the same situation, that you have two witnesses, in Bau it's specified, if two witnesses came and said that the Mr. So-and-so killed on Sunday, and then the Beis Din rendered the verdict and said, okay, we have two witnesses that the guy murdered on Sunday, and therefore he is a murderer and he should die. And after the end of the verdict, the other set of witnesses came and says, hold on, this guy was with us on Sunday, but we saw that on Friday that person killed, okay, the murderer killed. So therefore, one second. So therefore, because the conspiring the witnesses, the first set became conspiring witnesses after the verdict, they're not getting killed. And not only if the testimony of the second set was that the murderer killed on Friday, which means before he was actually killed, before the first set said Sunday, the second set said on Friday. Okay, so nonetheless, the person, the murderer is not getting killed. No, I'm sorry. The conspiring witnesses are not being killed. Okay, why? Because there was already a verdict. Even if they said, no matter what the second set said. The second set could have said Monday or Friday, okay? They could have testified that the actual murder happened before or after, but nonetheless, because there was the end of the court case occurred already, and there was a verdict rendered, that the conspiring witnesses are not getting killed. So, now the point is here that if someone, it's a sort of an aside. It's sort of an aside, and he's saying why it's not an aside actually. It's a central thing. Why is the first witnesses are not getting killed? Because at the time that the second set came and rendered them the first set conspiring witnesses, the person was already a dead man. Okay, why was he a dead man? Because we mentioned before, because the court gave its verdict. Now, there is an interesting side here. Yeah, what are you saying?
So the procedure was over. How could they listen to anybody else?
They couldn't.
Coming in and saying.
If two witnesses came to the right after and told the court is obligated to hear what people are saying, but they can't take it into consideration because the verdict occurred already. And when the verdict occurred, that means...
What if the verdict occurred, but it wasn't carried?
Right, it wasn't carried, of course, because we're talking about that it occurred, there was a verdict, but the murderer is still alive. The murderer is still alive. But, whether he's alive or dead, either way, the first set of witnesses is not conspiring witnesses, because by the time they were rendered conspiring witnesses, the man was already a dead man walking. That's, by the way, the saying "dead man walking." That's where it's coming from here. Now, the point is the dead man walking is there is if someone was rendered. This is just an aside, but it's interesting. If someone received a death penalty in court, and the punishment was not carried out yet, and then someone killed him. So is that person considered a murderer or not? What do you think?
Absolutely.
Nope. He's not.
The police didn't appoint him the executioner.
No. If the Beis Din rendered a psak that a certain person is guilty and therefore he needs to die, and 5 minutes later, before they actually killed him, someone walked in with a gun and shot the guy dead in front of everyone, the guy is a dead man, so therefore the murderer of the murderer is not guilty. That's the whole idea of a dead man walking. You cannot kill a dead man already. So that's very interesting. Very interesting stuff.
So what could happen if so the court is not adjourned? Apparently some other witnesses are coming.
No. The court is adjourned. The case is adjourned.
Yeah, well, you just said that he came other people and said and pointed out that the first set of witnesses were Zomimim.
Have you ever been to court, buddy?
Yeah.
Okay, so when you're in court, what did you speed or something? You were in court. So when you're in court, you sit in court with another pile of other, people that are, guilty of all kinds of things, and the cases go one after the other. Docket 1 is Mr. X, docket 2 is Mr. Y, docket 3 is Mr. Z. So as soon as Mr. What?
You don't mix them up. One is done.
Right. So as soon as one is done, the court is
If you guys barge in and start talking about something that happened 15 minutes ago, who's going to listen to them?
That's the point. That's exactly, you're right. That's the point. After the case is the verdict is rendered, there is no there is no going back. There is no appeals in Jewish courts. There is no really appellate court. There's no such thing. It's you're going to a higher court because they don't like what the first court said, so you're going to a higher court. There isn't such thing. There are different levels of courts, but the different level of courts are dealing with different crimes. Petty crime goes to the rabbi in shul, and then to other people, and someone who murdered go to a higher court. But you can't, after you hear from the rabbi in shul something you don't like, you cannot go to another court. It is what it is. It's done. That's one of the main differences between secular court and Jewish law.
So it's hard for me to imagine that after the verdict, okay, that the guy is dead, based on the Zemimim witnesses, we don't know that there's Zemimim yet.
Right.
And then here comes a bunch of guys and testifying that those are Zemimim witnesses.
Right.
It's hard to imagine that it happens at the same proceedings.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. It's possible. It's hard to imagine, but I'm sure it happened. No, I mean, you were saying something. I'm sorry.
The story is okay. So the person is rendered guilty, right?
Yeah.
Comes a few other guys saying, yeah, sure, he is guilty, right? But these people are the main witnesses. That's and if the verdict was rendered, I don't see how it can happen. If there is no appeal, if there is appeal, I can see something, right? Like it's possible, but there's not appeal. I think this situation is not from real life.
No, of course it's from real life. I mean, imagine how the court used to be then. Okay, the court used to be, if you look at archaeological digs, okay, you used to have at the entrance to the city, you had a big gate, and next to the big gate you had several rooms, and one or two of those rooms were set aside for court cases. So it was a public event where people are standing there in the city plaza, basically, because the right inside the gates of the city were that's where most of the commerce occurred. That was the center of the city, the gate. That's where everybody knew who came, or where everybody who lived the city left through there. So that was the center of the city, and that's where the judges were sitting and rendering their verdict. So somebody comes and forget about death penalty. I mean, even just regular disputes, and they were sitting there and they were talking and they were looking at the halacha, whatever it is, and they rendered the verdict. And a second after they rendered, two other witnesses who heard from someone that this court case is happening are barging in and saying, "Hold on, I mean, we want to testify so and so." It happened all the time. And there are several.
Okay, I didn't want to interrupt the flow. I'm sorry. Let's move on. I don't want to interrupt the flow.
Okay, all right. Anyway, whatever. But it's just so you know, it happened. And there are stories in the Gemara, several like that.
Okay.
All right. Next. Now Rava is continuing. Remember, he said the shiur, right? And he said the first section was not that new. The second section is new. And then he said the third section. And what's the third section that he said? The third section that he said, V'chen li'inyan tashlumei knas. Okay? What is tashlumei knas? Tashlumei knas, it's a fine. It's a payment of a fine. So when do we have in Judaism fine? When someone steals, okay, someone went to a house and stole $100. They have to pay the $100 because they just, that's money that doesn't belong to them. But also they're getting a fine. And the fine is that they have to pay a $100 fine. So they have to pay $200. They have to pay double. Now, the first part of the double is just the obligation. The second part is a fine. There are some other situation where someone stole a live animal, and then they shech the animal and they sold the meat. So then they have even more fine. They have to pay 4 times or 5 times depending on the type of animal. So the first 100% is for the obligation, and the other, if it's 4 times, so the 3 times more or 4 times more, that's a fine. Okay. Now, Here, in a case of a fine, we do find very much, we do find that someone cannot incriminate themselves. What does he mean? If someone stole $100 and then they couldn't sleep at night and they went to court and said to court, here, we stole $100 from so-and-so, here's $100. So the court is obviously doing right and taking the $100 and paying it to the person who it was stolen from, but they don't give a fine to the thief because they confessed. What Rashi said before, which we have a problem with, is that the person confesses doesn't get the death penalty. That is hard. We can't point somewhere in the Gemara that says that, but there are definitely very clear indication in the Gemara that someone who confesses for a monetary sin or crime, they don't pay fine. So what happened? Ba'u shnayim ve'amru be'echad b'Shabbat. So two people came and says that on Sunday, so and so stole an animal and slaughtered it and sold it. And then two other witnesses came and said, hey, on Sunday you were with us somewhere else. But we did see the crime that, on Monday, the person actually stole and sold, etc. So the first witnesses were rendered conspiring witnesses, omimim, and they have to pay the fine. They don't pay the 100% of what was stolen because the guy actually stole, but they do pay the fine. So if it's a regular theft, they have to pay. We would have given a verdict that the thief has to pay double. So they have to pay 100%, and the thief has to pay 100%. And it doesn't matter what the second set of witnesses is saying. If they're saying that it was on Friday or it was on Monday, the real theft occurred. Nonetheless, because at the time that the verdict was, at the time that the first witnesses gave their testimony, the person was not a convicted thief, and therefore they are paying because he wasn't a convict. He was, he's not an innocent man. We know because we have a second set, but nobody knew it at the time, and therefore the first set of witnesses are conspiring witnesses, and they have to pay the fine. Similar to what we learned with the murder, and the same thing the other way. Once the verdict occurred, the two came and said that on Sunday the person stole and sold. And then the verdict was given, and after the verdict was given, two other came and running and saying, "No, Sunday you were with us somewhere else, but we actually were here on Friday or on Monday, and we saw the person indeed stole." So they're not, the conspiring witnesses are not paying anything, because at the time that they became conspiring witnesses, the man is a convicted felon, a convicted thief, and therefore they're not getting the ruling of a din zomimi. Okay, so that is what Rava taught us. Now we are going to go to the next sections of the Mishnah. We're not going to get far, but we're going to get somewhere. Okay. The second set of the second part of the Mishnah is talking about a very strange situation, where you have the first set is testifying, okay, and then a second set is coming and saying those guys were with us in Florida, so they became conspiring witnesses. Then a third set is coming and testifying like the first one. So the second set is saying, oh, they were also with us in Florida. So they're also conspiring witnesses. Even 100 sets like that, the second set who is convicting everybody of being conspiring witnesses, according to the rabbis, you can trust them, and they can invalidate the testimony of all the other witnesses. Rabbi Yehuda said no, that it's obvious that this second set of witnesses is just, not truth, not telling the truth, and therefore you can't trust them. You only trust them regarding the first set. Okay? Only the first set is being rendered conspiring witnesses, but the third, fourth, fifth, second, the sixth set is not. That's what we learn in the Mishnah. Okay, so we have two opinions. Chachamim are saying that the second set is making everybody conspiring witnesses, and Rabbi Yehuda says no, the second set is only making the first set, but not the third, fourth, and fifth. Okay. So Rav Avau is asking the obvious question. If, according to Rabbi Yehuda, if you say that the second set is not truth tellers, you can't trust them. So why are you convicting the first set according to them? It doesn't make sense. And if you trust them for everyone. If you don't trust them for no one. Obvious question. So Rav Avau is saying, Rav Avau is answering that what happened here is that the first set was killed already. So the first set was rendered conspiring witnesses by the second set, and the punishment was carried out instantly, and those witnesses, the first conspiring witnesses, died. And then a third set came and said that what the first set actually said. So then you stop. You don't kill the third and the fourth and the fifth. Okay, that's what happened here. So the Gemara doesn't like that answer, because what is the Gemara saying? My de have. What are you telling me? That after you kill the first set, you only kill the first set? No, thank you very much. That's what happened. I don't need you to tell me that they're dead. It's not a good answer. We need a ruling. What happened if the first set wasn't killed? That's what makes sense to say. If it doesn't make sense that Rabbi Yehuda says that if you killed, so they're dead. I know that. So Amar Rava Achi Kemar. אם עיניי לקת אחת נהרגת, אם עיניי לקת אחת נהרגת. היא כתפי אין נהרגים. הבלבד כאמר קשיא. So what Rava is saying, that's not what happened here. What happened here is that, let me just see one second. What happened here is that that the first set was not killed. And what Rabbi Yehuda is saying, that if only one set became conspiring witnesses, then you kill them. But if more, you don't kill more. That's what he said. He was not talking about actually doing it, but he's saying, if the story is that only one set became conspiring witnesses, then you believe the second set. But if multiple sets become conspiring witnesses, you don't believe the second set. That's what Rabbi Yehuda is saying. So then the Gemara is saying, but the language, that the way he said it is not, it doesn't read that way. So the Gemara is answering Kashi, you're right. It doesn't really sound correct based on the language. But the concept is correct. Here there is I just wanted to say something about the way the Gemara works. When you have a question about something, if the question is a good question, but there is an answer to it, the Gemara is saying Kashya. There is a question. I don't know the answer, but there is an answer. I can't give you an answer now, but the concept is right. When there is no answer, and therefore we're rejecting what was said before, we're saying tiyuvta. Tiyuvta, that's an answer that... so therefore what happens is, whenever there is a kasha in the Gemara, all of the commentaries have a field day, because they're all trying to find the answer. What is the answer? How come you. So So there are several answers how you work with the actual wording. It has to do, with the construct of the sentence. You move one word here, you put the comma there, and that's how it works. So that's how they're all explaining it. But the bottom line, the concept is correct, and the concept is as follows. Okay, that according to the rabbis, according to Chachamim, the second set can make all the other sets conspiring witnesses, and according to Rabbi Yehuda, they can set no other. If it's more than one set, you don't believe the second set, and you don't make any of them conspiring witnesses. That is the actual difference between the two. Now, we're in time here, so next time what we're going to do is we have a couple of stories that we're going to try to understand the stories based on those rulings of the two camps, the rabbis and Rabbi Yehuda, whether you believe a set of witnesses that keep lying, do you say that they're liars or not? We'll see next time about it. But anyway, all right.